So this video is on the chapter 8, 8.3.1 worksheet, which is chapter 8, classwork number 5. We are doing something called long division with polynomials. And just a quick note, okay, just a little reminder of long division. Let's say I had 2 into 579, something like this. When I'm doing this, I would first focus on my 2 going into my 5, okay, my lead here, okay, my 2 into like the 500, 2 into 5. And 2 goes into 5 twice. I multiply those together, I get a 4, and then I subtract, I get a 1, bring down my next number, which is a 7. 2 goes into 17 8 times, which is 16. Subtract, bring down my next number 1. That's 1. Bring down my next number, which is a 9. 2 goes into 19 9 times, which is 18. I bring that down, I get a 1. And it is a remainder of 1, but we're not going to write our answer like that. We're going to say that this is 289 and 1/2. The 1, because we had 1 left over out of 2. Okay, so that's what we're doing, but we're doing it with the polynomial. So now let's go through doing it with the polynomials. Okay, so always what we want to do is make sure that this is in descending order, meaning power 3, power 2, this is a power 1, and a number is really power 0. And if I'm missing any term, I'd want to make sure I save its spot. So for example, if I did not have this x squared, let's pretend that that x squared was not there. Okay, that wasn't there. And I just had x cubed x cubed, let's say minus 7x. I would make sure to put a plus 0 x squared. So whatever term I'm missing, I'm going to put a 0 in front of that x to a power. Okay, so let's first just write this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take x minus 2 into, okay, I'm going to write all this here. So that is going to be x to the 3rd plus 2x squared. I want to make sure I can line things up, so let's be neat with this, minus 7x minus 2. Now, I'm not going to try to divide this whole x minus 2 into this. What I'm going to focus on, come get a highlighter, I'm going to focus on x, the lead of that, of what I'm dividing by, and into x cubed, the lead of what I'm dividing into. So when I'm doing this, x goes into x cubed how many times? Basically, x times what gets me x cubed? Well, x times x squared. Since it's x squared, I put it up here above the x squared. So I'm going to write x squared. And now I am going to multiply this x squared with both of these. So x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times a negative 2 is a negative 2x squared. Okay. Now I'm going to subtract. Now when I subtract, I'm subtracting everything. So I'm just going to grab a different color. Okay. So I do this orange. And when I subtract, I make everything opposite. So when I subtract, this becomes a minus and this becomes a plus. And then I'm going to combine these, and my x cubes cancel out. I have a 2x squared and a 2x squared, which is going to be a 4x squared. Then I'm going to bring this down, which is a negative 7x. So now, again, I'm focusing on x and 4x squared. So x goes into 4x squared how many times? Basically, x times what gets me 4x squared? And that is going to be a positive, whoops, let me highlight. That is going to be a positive 4x. So now I'm going to multiply 4x with x and then 4x with the negative 2. So 4x times x is 4x squared. And 4x times a negative 2 is a negative 8x. And then I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to come and I'm going to change the sign. This is going to be a negative and this is going to be a positive. And now I'm going to combine. So my x squareds cancel out. Negative 7x plus 8x is x. And then I'm going to bring down my next one, which is a negative 2. Now, again, I'm focusing on this lead here. So I'm going to say x times what gets me x? Well, that's going to be an x times 1. So I'm going to put plus 1. And now I'm going to multiply 1 with x and 1 with negative 2. And I get an x minus 2. Again, I'm subtracting, so this becomes a negative, this becomes a positive, and I end up with 0. So what this means is that this went in evenly. So my answer is x squared plus 4x plus 1. This also means that this x minus 2 here, this x minus 2 here was a factor. Okay, it was a factor. Why? Because I had a remainder of 0. If I had a remainder other than 0, it would not be a factor. So now we're going to kind of use this information to help us on number 2. So on 2, they want us to write x cubed plus 2x squared minus 7x minus 2 as linear factors. So notice this is x squared plus 2x squared minus 7x minus 2. It's the same thing here. I know one factor. This times this gets me this. So when I take x minus 2 and I divide it into this, I end up with x squared plus 4x plus 1. So if I'm going to write this as a product of factors, again, I'm going to write this as f of x is equal to x minus 2 and x squared plus 4x plus 1. Now, my x minus 2 is a linear factor, but this x squared plus 4x plus 1 is not. You can try to factor this, but this is not factorable over integers. Nothing multiplies to 1 and adds to 4. So what I'm going to do is remember whatever the roots are. So if I know this root is x equal 2 because 2 makes that 0. So if I can figure out what makes this 0, I can go backwards and come up with my factors. So I am going to solve this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take x squared plus 4x plus 1, set it equal to 0, and see what makes that 0. Okay. I'm going to complete the square. So I am going to subtract the 1. And then I need to figure out what would make this a perfect square. So if I am trying to do it as using the area model, where this is an x squared, I split this 4x evenly because I want it to be a square. So I want both sides to have the same amount of x's. So I'm going to put 2x here and 2x here. I basically took half of 4. This would be an x plus 2. This would be an x plus 2. Now I am missing something. I am missing this right here. So what goes there? Because whatever goes there is also going to go here. So that is going to be 2 times 2 or 2 times 2 or 4. So I'm going to go plus 4 here, plus 4 here. Now this side is going to be an x plus 2 squared. You see I have x plus 2 here is equal to 3. I'm going to square root that. So I get x plus 2 is equal to plus or minus root 3. I'm going to minus 2. So I get x is equal to negative 2 plus or minus root 3. So those are other roots. So what happens is I know that this one gave me x minus 2. Now my other two, I have the following. I have a negative 2 plus a root 3. And I have a negative 2 minus a root 3. So what factors did those come from? Well, just like here where I made this 2 opposite, and so I go x minus 2, I'm going to make this opposite. So it's going to be x, and the opposite of a negative 2 plus root 3 is a positive 2 minus root 3. And then for this one here, the opposite of a negative 2 minus root 3, I'm going to have x, and then it's going to be a positive 2 plus root 3. And this would be my linear factors. These are all linear because they're all x, not like this, which is x squared. This is a tricky problem. This was one that we did today. The rest of them are going to be the long division. Okay. On number 3, long division, here they drew it out, but make sure we have this in descending order, which we do, and then 3, 2, 1, 0. So I am going to focus on the 2x into 4x cubed. So 2x times what gets me 4x cubed? Well, that's going to be a 2x squared. So that's going to come right here because this is my x squared column. So I'm going to line it up here, 2x squared. And now my 2x squared is going to multiply with my 2x, and my 2x squared is going to multiply with my negative 3. So I'm going to get a 4x cubed minus 2 times 3 is going to be 6x squared. And then remember, I am going to minus. So I'm going to make this a negative and make this a positive. And then I'm going to combine. So my 4x cubed minus 4x cubed is gone. 6x squared and 6x squared is a 12x squared. And I'm going to bring down my minus 2x. So again, start to focus on your lead. What can I multiply 2x by to get 12x squared? Well, that is going to be a positive, hold on, let me get out of my, that is going to be a positive 6x. And now the 6x is going to multiply with the 2x and then with the negative 3. So 6x times 2x is 12x squared. 6x and then the negative 3 is a negative 18x. And then I'm going to subtract. So this becomes a negative and this becomes a positive. And when I combine them, my 12x squared cancel out. These always have to cancel out. Every time these have to cancel out, even if you have to multiply by a fraction. So these are going to cancel out. And here I'm going to get a 16x minus 5 because I bring down my minus 5. So now again, I'm focused on having it go into the 16x. So 2x times 8 would get me this. So I'm going to go plus 8. And then I'm going to multiply 8 times 2x is 16x. 8 times a negative 3 is a negative 24. And then I subtract, so I go negative, whoops. I go negative plus. And when I combine these, my x's cancel out. And here a negative 5 and a 24, that's going to give me a 19. So you see, I do have a remainder. So that's okay. We're going to write it out. I'll show you how to write it. But what does that mean? This 2x minus 3 would not have been a factor. Okay. I would have had to have a remainder of 0 if it's a factor. So my answer is going to be 2x squared plus 6x plus 8. And then I'm going to take this remainder of 19 and I'm going to go plus 19, which is a remainder over what I divided by, which is 2x minus 3. And that's my answer. Four. On this one, we have to be careful. This is division. So I am going to be dividing by x minus 1. But what you want to pay attention to is I have an x to the 5th, but I'm missing the 4th power, the 3rd power, the 2nd power, and the 1st power. So what I'm going to do is I am going to write x to the 5th plus, I always put a plus, 0, x to the 4th plus 0, x to the 3rd plus 0, x squared plus 0, x, and then minus 1. And again, we're going to focus on the x into x to the 5th, always lead into lead. So when we're doing that, x times what gets me x to the 5th? Well, that's going to be an x to the 4th. So I'm going to put it right here above this. So I'm going to put x to the 4th, and then I'm going to multiply. And I get x to the 5th minus x to the 4th. Again, my x to the 4th is multiplying with x, and my x to the 4th is multiplying with the negative 1. Then I am going to subtract. So this becomes a negative, and this becomes a positive. And then when I combine it, these cancel out. Here I end up with a 4x to the fourth, and I bring this down and I get a plus 0x cubed. And again, x goes into 4x plus 4 how many times? And that is going to be a 4x to the third. And then 4x to the third times x minus 1 is a 4x to the fourth minus 4x to the third. Again, I'm going to subtract. So this becomes negative and this becomes positive. My 4x to the fourth minus 4x to the fourth gone. 0x cubed plus 4x cubed is a 4x cubed. Bring down my 0x squared. Okay, now I'm going to take my x and think about going into a 4x cubed. And that is going to go in 4x squared. So I'm going to have a 4x squared. And that is going to be multiplying with both of these. So 4x squared times x is a 4x cubed. 4x squared times a negative 1 is a negative 4x squared. And then I'm going to subtract. This becomes negative. This becomes positive. These cancel out. 0x squared plus 4x squared is 4x squared. Bring down my 0x. So now my x is going to go into let me get the same color, is going to go into my 4x squared. And that is going to go in 4x times. So I'm going to write plus 4x here and then multiply. 4x times x is 4x squared. 4x times a negative 1 is a negative 4x. Subtract. This becomes negative. This becomes positive. I end up getting a 4x, and then I bring down my minus 1. And now I am going to take x into 4x, and that is going to go 4 times. So that's going to be a plus 4. And that gives me a 4x minus 4. Subtract, so this becomes negative, this becomes positive. And when I combine it, I get a 3. So my final answer is going to be x to the fourth plus 4, just started over here. So x to the fourth plus 4x to the third plus 4x squared plus 4x plus 4, and then I have a remainder of 3. So it's going to be plus 3 over what I divided by, which is x minus 1. And that is our answer. On number 5, okay, again, we're going to divide. This time we're dividing by a trinomial, and it has an x squared. And I'm also missing some terms here. So I'm going to have x squared plus 2x minus 1 into x to the third plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 11. And I want to have my x squared going into my x to the third. So this looks really not so nice to do, but what's going to happen is x squared times what gets me x cubed and x. So I'm going to line it up all the way over here. So I'm already here. I really only have one more division to do here. So now I'm going to take x times this. And when I do, I get x to the third plus 2x squared minus x. And I am going to subtract. So this is negative, and this is a positive. Let me make that a little bigger. Negative, negative, and then that's a positive. So now when I combine this, I end up with a negative 2x squared plus x minus 11. So now we want to figure out negative 2x, so x squared times what gets me a negative 2x squared. And that is going to be a negative 2. So I'm going to take negative 2 times x squared plus 2x minus 1. And I get a negative 2x squared minus 4x plus 2. I am going to subtract. So that means that this minus becomes a plus. This minus became a plus. This became a minus. So these cancel out. This gives me a 5x. And this gives me a negative 13. And then when I'm looking at this, if this right here, the power here is smaller than the one we're dividing by, you can't divide into this. So this is going to be our remainder. And so my answer is going to be x minus 2 plus 5x minus 13 over x squared plus 2x minus 1. On number 6, now on number 6, when you're doing this, you'll notice that this is missing a term. So I'm going to write 3x squared plus 0x plus 2 divided into, let's get rid of this now, 9x cubed plus 12x squared plus 3x minus 4. So I'm not missing any terms and it is in descending order. So again, I am going to focus on this 3x squared and this 9x cubed, which again, 9x squared, sorry, 3x squared times a 3x is going to give me a 9x cubed. So I'm going to put 3x, I don't need to put, it's a positive, I don't need to put plus, it's a positive. And these are going to multiply. So I'm going to get a 9x cubed plus, now 3x times 0x is 0, but what I'm going to do is it's a 3 times 0, which is a 0. And then it's an x times x, which is my x squared. That way I have it in my x squared spot. And then 3x times 2 is a 6x. Then I'm going to subtract. So this becomes negative. This is a negative. This is a negative. And when I combine this, I'm going to get a 12x squared minus 3x. And then I'm going to bring this down a negative 4. And 3x squared times what gets me 12x squared? Well, that is going to be a positive 4. And when those multiply, I'm going to get a 12x squared plus a 0x plus 8. I am going to subtract. So this is a negative, this is a negative, this is a negative. And I'm going to get a negative 3x minus 12. And that's my remainder because the 3x squared cannot go into a 3x because 3x is not as big of an exponent. And so my answer is going to be 3x plus 4 plus, and then I'm going to have a negative 3x minus 12 over 3x squared plus 2. I don't need to write the 0x there. Now I'm going to write this also in purple. What I could also have done is had my 3x plus 4. And then if I wanted to have it be a minus, since both of these are negative, or because my lead is negative. But if I do that, I have to be careful. If I put that minus, then everything on top the 3x and the 12. The 3x and the 12 are going to be positive over 3x squared plus 2. Both of these are the same answer. Last one, number 7. On 7, they're asking if x minus 8 is a factor. So if it's a factor, it should divide in and I get a remainder of 0. And so I'm going to have x cubed minus 11x squared minus 16x plus 320. And I'm looking at x into x cubed to start with. And x goes into x cubed, x squared times. When that multiplies, I get an x cubed minus 8x squared. And I am going to subtract. So this is a negative and this is a positive. And I end up with a negative 3x squared minus 16x. So focusing on x into negative 3x squared. And that is going to go in negative 3x. So I'm going to get a negative 3x squared plus 24x. And I'm going to change my sign. So this is going to be plus and this is going to be a minus. And when I combine that, I'm going to get a negative 40x plus 320. And then x goes into a negative 40x, negative 40 times, so it's going to be minus 40. That multiplies, I get a negative 40x plus 320. I'm going to subtract, so this becomes plus, that becomes minus. Everything cancels out and I get a remainder of 0. So what does that mean? X minus 8 is a factor of x to the third minus 11x squared minus 16x plus 300, whoops, trying to move this, plus 320, because I got a remainder of 0. When I divided. Hopefully this will help you out. The homework for tonight is very similar. We did submit this in class, so make sure you do turn this in.